Before he became the Allfather, Odin had to die to learn the secrets of the universe. There was only a vast emptiness known as getting the gap, a silent void stretching endlessly between fire and ice. From this emptiness, the first forms of life arose. And among them stood a figure who would one day reshape fate itself, Odin, the Wanderer, the Seeker, the future Allfather of a universe older than any god, older than any story. Warrior, he is portrayed as a being consumed by an ache for knowledge, where other gods celebrated strength. Odin wanted meaning, where others sought glory. He pursued wisdom. His thirst for understanding was so immense that it often pushed him to sacrifice more deeply than any mortal or god would dare. He did himself of Bor, the first of the gods, and Besla, daughter of a frost giant. This union of divine and giant blood made Odin something unique, a bridge between two worlds that were destined to clash. World shaped by giants, Odin's giant ancestry explains not only his cunning and ruthlessness, but also his deep understanding of chaos, fate, and the dangerous forces that lay beyond the god's wall. The primeval giant whose massive form contained the potential of worlds. He learned of the cow Odhumla, whose milk nourished early beings, and whose licking of salty ice blocks revealed Odin's own grandfather. These tales were not mere stories, they were the first fragments of cosmic truth, hints of the mysteries Odin would dedicate his eternity to unraveling. Why existence existed, why fire met ice. Why the void produced life, why fate wove destinies only to destroy them. And he sensed, even then, that the answers were hidden in deep, painful places only he would dare to go. Values of real Viking society. Knowledge, especially secret, forbidden knowledge, was seen as a source of power equal to strength. Shamans, poets, and prophets held immense respect in Viking communities. Odin's willingness to sacrifice for understanding mirrors the harsh northern world where survival often depended on knowing more than your enemy, reading storms, or interpreting omens. It was an act of creation. Together with his brothers, Odin would confront the ancient giant Ymir, dismantle the raw, chaotic flesh of the universe, and shape it into something ordered. But even before that cosmic act, Odin was already gathering the tools he would need: courage, insight, and an unshakable will. He listened to the crackling fires of Muspelheim and the creaking glaciers of Niflheim. He interrogated the wind, the darkness, and the silence. Everything was a teacher, and he wanted to learn from all of it. He knew something instinctively that would become the core of all Norse belief. Wisdom always has a cost. The greater the truth, the greater the sacrifice. Hang himself on the world tree for 9 days. This is why he would walk endlessly in disguise, testing kings, inspiring warriors, whispering poems to skalds, and shaping destiny from the shadows. The storm of fire and frost that had given birth to giants, gods, and the first flickers of fate. He was not yet the Allfather, but in the emptiness of getting the gap, the foundations of his destiny were already unfolding. The world was about to begin, and Odin would be the one to carve it into being. There was only Ymir, the primordial giant, the first being shaped from the clash of fire and ice. He was not born in a mother's womb, nor forged by the hands of any creator. Ymir emerged from getting the gap, the yawning void, at the moment when the flames of Muspelheim drifted north and met the freezing winds of Niflheim. The moment warmth touched frost, the impossible happened. Life formed out of contradiction. Of the land around them, the world where ice and fire truly collided. Volcanic eruptions tore through frozen mountains, lava ran beneath glaciers, and lightning storms split the sky above snow-covered fields. Archaeologists believe early Norse peoples saw these violent natural contrasts and understood creation as something born from conflict, tension, and struggle. Ymir was the embodiment of this worldview, whose body contained oceans, mountains, and storms long before those things had a name. He was not benevolent nor evil. He simply was pure existence, raw and tamed nature. His shape-shifting, his sweat generating new beings, his breath filling the early void. Everything about him represented uncontrolled creation, and unpredictable as the forces that birthed them. Viking storytellers imagined them as towering figures with ice in their bones and storm winds in their voices. These giants, the Jötnar, would become the eternal rivals of the gods. Not because they were wicked, but because they represented chaos. The natural world, in all its danger, mystery, and cold brutality. Another form of life emerged, Idhumla, the cosmic cow. She too was born from the melting frost, and from her flowed the warm milk that nourished Ymir, a strange but symbolic image. To the Vikings, cattle were a source of survival, wealth, and stability. Idhumla's presence suggests that even in the harshest cosmic wilderness, nourishment and order could arise in her, and covering something hidden beneath the frost. Slowly, shape by shape, she revealed Buri, the ancestor of the gods. The image of life being revealed from ice is thought by historians to mirror early Scandinavian rituals, where carvings, weapons, or sacred objects were uncovered from frozen rivers at the first thaw, a symbolic rebirth of life after winter. In controlled ways, giants multiplied, the void filled with beings who understood neither order nor harmony. They were powerful but wild, alive but directionless. In their world, nothing had meaning. There was no sun, no sky, no earth, no sea, only endless gray emptiness populated by giants who wandered without purpose. Envy. These brothers were different. They possessed clarity, purpose, and awareness. They saw Ymir not as the father of all, but as an obstacle, a being whose chaotic presence prevented the shaping of a stable world. The giants devoured, roared, multiplied, and overshadowed everything they touched. No order could be created while Ymir lived, and portrays the struggle between gods and giants not as good versus evil, but as order versus chaos. Giants embodied the unpredictable forces of nature, storms, earthquakes, winter. Wild animals. The gods represented structure, law, culture, craftsmanship. Society. Their war was not a moral conflict, but a necessary tension of the universe. History. Small, organized settlements often struggled against larger, more nomadic warrior groups. The gods' Aesir symbolize community and cooperation. The giants represent the unpredictable dangers of survival in the harsh north. Flourish in Ymir's shadow. To build anything meaningful, forests, seas, humans, even fate, the raw chaos had to be dismantled. And so, Odin made the decision that would set all things into motion. A decision that required courage, vision, and the willingness to destroy the very being from which all life had come. And the death of Ymir would soon give birth to the world, not yet understand the scale of the sacrifice that lay ahead. As he and his brothers studied the chaotic realm around them, they realized that Ymir's presence prevented order from forming. The giant's breath blew freezing storms across the void, his footsteps shook the newborn realms, and from his body flowed endless waves of Jetnir. Chaos was multiplying faster than the gods could ever hope to control. Formlessness had to be dismantled, and so Odin chose the unthinkable. The first god would kill the first being, center of the primordial void. The myths speak of this battle with hushed reverence, for it marks the beginning of everything. Ymir was colossal, a living mountain of frost and shadow, and when he moved, the entire emptiness of Ginnungagap trembled. His roar split the early skies, shaking both Muspelheim's flames and Niflheim's ice. Could exist forests, seas, stars, destiny itself, and he knew none of it would ever be born unless he acted. The struggle between purpose and chaos. Odin and his brothers attacked Ymir with weapons shaped from the early bones of creation as spears of raw intention, blades forged from cosmic will. Myths say the sound of their blows echoed into future ages, becoming the first storms, the first thunder, the first cries of life struggling to emerge. That it drowned nearly all the frost giants. Rivers, lakes, and oceans spilled from his broken form, flooding the void. Only a single giant family survived by climbing into a wooden box, a detail scholars compared to flood myths found across many cultures, suggesting a shared human memory of ancient natural disasters. They believed the world was made from the body of something older, something wild. This concept mirrors a near-universal human pattern. Many cultures envision creation as the dismemberment of a primordial being, with symbolic expression of how early people saw the world. Emerging from the raw materials of nature. From Ymir's flesh, they formed the earth, the solid ground that would support future civilizations. From his bones, they created the mountains, jagged and ancient, from his teeth and shattered fragments of bone. They crafted stones and cliffs, like the lifeblood of existence. From his skull, they formed the sky. placing it above the world like an immense dome held by 4 dwarves at the corners. His hair became the forests. His eyebrows, strangely enough, were used to build Midgard, the realm of humans, a protective enclosure between gods and giants. Also landscapes carved by glaciers, rivers, and shifting earth. Their land was rugged, shaped by violent natural forces. To them, mountains truly felt like bones pushing out of the earth, and oceans like the spilled blood of ancient battles. And so he and his brothers walked along the new shores and found fallen tree trunks. To ordinary eyes they were nothing special, but Odin saw potential hidden inside them, silent forms waiting for meaning. He gave them form, senses, and speech. Thus were born the first humans, Ask and Embla. Viking society saw humanity as deeply connected to nature, not separate from it. Trees provided shelter, fire, weapons, and ships. They were life. So in their mythology, humans emerging from trees symbolized the unity between mankind and the living world, and had taken the first step toward becoming the Allfather, the leader of gods, the seeker of wisdom, the shaper of destiny. Storms still roared, and the balance between order and chaos hung by a thread. Odin knew the universe would need protection. Realms, walls, laws, and the weaving of fate itself. His brothers looked upon the newborn earth and saw both its beauty and its fragility. The land was vibrant, the seas surged with restless energy, and the sky stretched high above Midgard like a fresh canvas. But a world alone was not enough. It required structure of layers, realms, boundaries, a cosmic order that would separate chaos from creation and keep the universe balanced. These realms were not planets or countries, they were layers of existence, each with its own purpose, inhabitants, and spiritual weight. To the Vikings, the universe was not flat or linear, it was a great tree of reality, filled with connections, pathways, and unseen borders. Describe it as a colossal ash tree whose roots reached the deepest places of existence and whose branches extended beyond the heavens. This tree was not merely symbolic, it was the axis that held the cosmos together, often placing gathering sites or temples beneath large ash or oak trees. Yggdrasil may have been a mythologized reflection of this spiritual reverence, the home of the Asgard gods. Odin, Thor, Frigtr, and the others would take their place here as rulers and protectors of the cosmic order. Asgard was envisioned as a realm of shining halls and towering walls, a reflection of elite warrior fortresses in Viking society. The idea that gods lived behind mighty defenses mirrored the real-world need for protection in a harsh, violent age. His brothers constructed a protective boundary around it using Ymir's eyebrows, a strange image, yet symbolic of a fortified world surrounded by danger. Viking settlements were often ringed with walls, palisades, or natural barriers, shaping this mythic idea of a guarded homeland. Hence, this was the realm of chaos, storms, mountains, and wild forces. It was not evil, it was untamed. Vikings saw the wilderness beyond their villages as equally unpredictable, a home to wild animals, hostile tribes, and the relentless elements. Jotunheim expressed that fear and respect. And silence. To the south burnt Muspelheim, the land of fire and flame. These two realms were older than the gods themselves, remnants of the original clash that birthed Ymir. Their existence reminded all beings that chaos could never be fully destroyed, only managed. And creators of divine artifacts, Norse smiths were renowned across Europe. And this mythic realm was likely inspired by the deep mines and forges that glowed like portals into another world, and ethereal wisdom. Scholars believe these elves represent older ancestral spirits or nature beings from pre-Viking Sham. Anic traditions, in contrast, Vanaheim, the realm of the Vanir gods, symbolize fertility, prosperity, and the deep magic of the natural world, a reminder that not all divine power came from war. Ruled by Hel, Loki's daughter, this realm was not a place of torment but one of stillness, shadows, and memory. It reflected the Viking belief that most people, farmers, mothers, workers, would not die in battle and therefore would rest in a quiet afterlife rather than Valhalla, vacation. For the worlds to function, they needed connections. Thus was formed Bifrost, the shimmering rainbow bridge linking Midgard to Asgard. It represented the fragile link between humans and gods a pathway of trust, ritual, and divine order. Stability and chaos mirrored the lived experience of Viking people. Their world was unpredictable, shaped by storms, hunger, war, and cold. Yet within that harshness, they found meaning through family, honor, and tradition. The nine realms express this duality: life and death, beauty and danger, gods and giants, all coexisting within an ordered whole. As that something was still missing, the universe had shape, but not motion. It had realms, but not destiny. For creation to endure, the flow of time, fate, and the story of all beings had to be woven, and deeper than even the gods' fate. A universe built from Ymir's body and bound together by Yggdrasil still needed direction. It needed a story, a flow, a destiny that would guide the lives of gods, giants, animals, and humans alike. This destiny did not come from Odin for any Esser. It came from beings far more ancient, well of fate. Here lived the Norns, the three mysterious women who shaped the destiny of all existence. Their names were what has been, Varani what is becoming, and Skuld what shall be. Together, they tended to the roots of the world tree, drawing water and white clay from the well to strengthen it, ensuring the cosmos endured. Presented a profound understanding of how life works. In their worldview, fate was not fully predetermined, nor was it random. It was a woven tapestry, shaped by choices, circumstances, ancestry. And the unknown, the Norns embodied this delicate balance of destiny into the fabric of the universe. These runes were symbols of cosmic law, not simply letters, but gateways to magical forces. Odin would one day sacrifice himself to unlock their power, but for now, he simply watched and learned as the Norns wove the stories of beings yet to be born. Threads of life, measured them, and cut them when the time came. This imagery mirrors the textile traditions of Viking women, who used looms to create clothing, sails, and tapestries. For the weaving of fate, archaeologists note that grave goods often include spindles, distaffs, and weaving tools, silent evidence of how deeply the Vikings connected life and destiny to the art of cloth making. Even the gods were subject to fate. No power, no magic, no weapon, not even Odin's wisdom, could escape the tapestry woven by these ancient beings. This idea set Norse mythology apart from many others. In Greek myths, Zeus ruled fate. In Egyptian myths, divine order was supreme. But in Norse belief, even the highest god must one day meet his destined end. Life in the north was unpredictable. Storms, hunger, disease, and war were constant threats. People lived with the awareness that death could come suddenly, and that courage was measured not by survival, but by how one faced unavoidable fate. The idea that fate is fixed, but honor is chosen lay at the heart of their culture. Not just three. Every person had personal Norns or spirits, or forces shaping their individual fortune. Good Norns could bring success, strong health, and long life. Bad ones could bring misfortune or tragedy. This belief helped explain why some people thrived while others suffered, despite living in the same harsh landscape. Ensuring the tree would stand strong despite the many forces that sought to destroy it, including the dragon Nidhogg, which gnawed at its roots. This constant struggle between chaos and renewal reflected the Viking understanding of the world. Balance is never permanent. Order must be maintained. Fate is always moving. It was a living force, like when shifting through the branches of the world tree. To understand the future, one had to understand the past. To change fate, one had to know its patterns. It was this realization that would drive Odin to pursue wisdom at any cost, even if it meant sacrificing his own body. The threads of time stretched from the past into the future. The worlds settled into their places. Life had direction. But a universe with fate still lacked one essential element: language, memory, and the magic that binds them. The next great secret awaited Odin: the mystery of the runes. Odin sensed something was missing, something essential that would allow the gods to truly understand the universe. The world had structure, and destiny had been set in motion, but there was no language of magic. No system through which hidden truths could be grasped or shaped. He needed knowledge that lay beneath the surface of existence, or the power of the runes. The runes were not invented by the gods. They existed before the gods, before the giants, before the world itself. They were ancient forces, as symbols representing the core vibrations of reality. Each rune carried meaning, power, and memory. They were fragments of the universe's original language, the script of creation. Runes as the most significant moment in his transformation from a seeker into the Allfather. He knew the Norns used runes to carve the fate of the world into the roots of Yggdrasil. He saw the patterns, felt the echoes, and recognized that these symbols held the key to understanding life, death, destiny, magic, and the deep mysteries that govern the 9 realms. Through sacrifice, a sacrifice so great that even gods feared it, and Odin chose it willingly, declared that he would offer himself to the void in exchange for wisdom. He hung himself from one of its branches, pierced by his own spear, suspended between life and death for 9 days and 9 nights, alone, and fed, and touched, staring into the abyss below. Moment where God speaks directly to mortals. I hung on that windswept tree, wounded with a spear, myself to myself. On that tree whose roots no man knows. Earned, not gifted. Pain and insight are linked. Transformation requires surrender. Historians believe this myth resembles real shamanic practices found in ancient northern cultures, where spiritual leaders sought visions through fasting, pain, and isolation. Odin's sacrifice mirrors these trance rituals, the symbolic death leading to rebirth. Selves. They rose up from the darkness, glowing symbols of deep meaning. Swirling like secret constellations beneath the roots of the world, they entered his mind not as simple letters, but as living forces. Each rune showed him a truth. Transformation. Thor says the power of chaos, giants, conflict. Ansuz breath, communication, divine inspiration, radio journey. Rhythm, destiny's path, Kenna's a fire, knowledge, illumination. Unseen forces that shaped reality. Odin did not just learn them. He became the one who brought them into reach of gods and humans. Their magic allowed him to heal, charm, bind, loosen, inspire, curse, bless, and foresee the shape of events to come. For a seeker, he was reborn as the master of runes, the god of wisdom, poetry, magic, sovereignty, and sacrifice. His knowledge gave him authority not only over the gods but over the very structure of fate, and with warriors who carved them into weapons for protection. Farmers used runes for good harvests, lovers for bonding, sailors for guidance, and healers for curing sickness. In Viking society, writing itself was a sacred act, because runes were believed to vibrate with ancient power. Each inscription was a spell, knowledge. In their world, wisdom was not passive. It was weapon, tool, and treasure. The Allfather's sacrifice taught that understanding required personal cost, and that those who dared to seek truth would be rewarded. The 9 realms were complete. Fate was woven. Wisdom had been earned, and the world vibrant, dangerous, alive, was ready for the long saga that would follow. Its destiny, and the story of the gods was only just beginning.